morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Can't hear you. Don't know what happened. There you are.
Hello, is that good? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 3 and episode number 366 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Yeah. Today, recording day is Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024, and not quite sure what kind of day it's going to be here at the Beaver Lodge. Looks like there's a struggle between the clouds and the sun to decide whether or not we're going to have an overcast day or a sunny day right now. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? And with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. Got a little bit of a nibble for you today, but before we do anything else, Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health doing today, sir?
Mr. Beaver, I am physically exhausted this morning, and I have no idea why. I went to sleep at a decent hour. I slept well. I just woke up exhausted. I'm thinking it's the allergies, because I don't know what else it could be, unless I'm coming down with something, and I don't have time for that. I'm too busy. I'm too busy to be sick. Way too busy to be sick. So, mental health, I think, is okay for the time being. I'm just really tired today. So, let's see how this plays out.
Yeah, that was me yesterday. I was rather exhausted and not as productive as I needed to be, unfortunately.
That happens.
Oh, well. Lots to do, unfortunately, on the agenda. It's a lot of things are just coming to head all at the same time, which is
That's usually how it is.
Feeling a little bit like a chicken with a head cut off running around.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes.
But eventually it will all get taken care of.
Everything everywhere all at once, right?
Something like that. Yeah, something like that. All right. We have some news for you. It's interesting. It's like there were stuff that happened, but at the same time, it seemed like a slow news day relatively yesterday because there's been a lot going on lately. So this one had a little bit of a breather. As you know, yesterday was Earth Day, Kits and Cups, and it seems that the big announcement for this government, because there's always a big Earth Day announcement, is that we're going to be creating something called a plastic registry to help monitor the life cycle of plastics. According to Minister Guilbeault, every year from now on, they must declare the quantity and types of plastic they supply, how these plastics move through the economy, and how they are managed at the end of their life. Currently, fewer than 10% of plastics in Canada are recycled. The rest ends up in landfills or the environment. And with that going on, it seems as well is that there is a big conference with regard to plastics that is happening, and I believe that it does kick off today. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's in Montreal, but I would have to take another look at that to be sure. But it's a UN conference, so there are people from literally all over around the world. It's UN nations led negotiations on an international treaty on plastic pollution. Stephen Guilbeault heads to what's called the Plastic Action Zone, which, as his office notes, is part of the government organized programming on the sidelines of the main event, to join his parliamentary secretary, as well as representatives from a number of innovative businesses, to announce a new initiative that will boost the circular economy. While he's there, Green Party leader Elizabeth May will also be making the rounds at the conference. With the new rules specifically, Minister Guilbeault says that the registry will require plastic producers to take more responsibility for the plastics they put on the market, because the goal now seems to be that we're going to get companies to monitor the waste that they produced rather than just simply blue binning it the way that we're doing. So I don't know what change there's going to be for the actual citizen, whether they keep on doing things as they used to, just sorting their plastics from their papers and that type of stuff, and then that happens somewhere else. But yes, companies are, because the recycling thing wasn't working as well as people had hoped, there seems to be a change now to make corporations responsible for the waste that they produced all the way to the end of their life cycle. I'm not exactly sure how that works because I haven't heard too many details, but that's what's going on here. With regard to the summit, negotiators for 176 countries will be gathering in downtown Ottawa this week. It's the fourth round of talks to create a global treaty to eliminate plastic waste in less than 20 years. The registry is part of the federal government's overall effort to reduce plastic waste in Canada, because Canadians throw away more than 4 tons of plastic waste every year, according to the federal government, and only 9% is recycled, with the bulk ending up in landfills, as we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, that's not good.
One of the federal government's key efforts to address the problem was Delta Blow last November, because remember they had singled out a certain number of plastics, and then some provinces took that to court, and the judge said that you couldn't sort of just blanket ban them. You had to like specifically say which ones and why,
Right.
what,
Well, and
why they were considered toxic. You couldn't just say plastic's toxic as
fair enough, fair point, right? But here's the thing: is like I do not see plastic bags anywhere anymore. I just see the reusable ones. I think I've seen. Well, I shouldn't say anywhere. I think there's a corner store that still will provide plastic bags, but they have reusable ones for sale too, which is just a nice little addition, profitable thing for all of them, right?
Right.
They're made of like largely plastic anyway.
Right.
So although you don't toss them because they're much more reusable, but I have so many of them, it's ridiculous.
Well, that's what people are saying now. It's like, these bags have more plastic in them, and they're just accumulating in closets. At some point, they are going to be needed. So at some point, people are going to start dumping them, right?
Well, I've just started putting them in the plastic recycle bin here.
Yeah.
What else am I going to do with them? I get so many of them. And the problem is I'll go to pick up groceries on my way home from work and realize I didn't bring a bag with me, so I have to purchase one. That being said, though, at the Farm Boy, where I buy a lot of my groceries because it's on the way home, they do offer paper bags.
Right.
Which is what I'll get, paper bags with the handles like we used to get in the 70s, remember?
Right. Exactly.
Although they didn't have handles, so you just had to carry them. But those bags were often used as book covers.
Yes, they were. I used them a lot. And then you get to draw on them and have all your friends draw on them, and then you had the snazziest book covers out there.
Yeah.
It was a thing. Yeah. So Ottawa has announced that it was appealing that court decision. It seems that a lot of provinces and territories have similar registries in place, but data collection is inconsistent across jurisdictions. So this would sort of create some type of national standard for the data, so that it could be more useful for stakeholders and people that need to do research and analysis. said that Sapa Khan, who's the climate director for the David Suzuki Foundation, said the announcement is an important step in making plastic producers more accountable. Khan said it would be important to ensure plastic producers are transparent about the types of plastic being produced, as well as because some can lead to serious health problems. Quote, we really need to know what kind of plastics are being produced from a chemical perspective, because at the end of the day, we need to phase out the toxic components. A recent report funded by the Norwegian Research Council found as many as 16,000 additives used in the production of plastics. 25% are known to be harmful, said Tony Walker, professor of resource and environmental studies at Dalhousie University in Nova Scotia. We don't have data on the other 75%. Walker says this information is often proprietary, but is needed to understand the health impacts of plastics, which are found, quote, in every single environmental compartment on Earth, including ourselves. He says Monday's announcement wouldn't compel producers to reveal this information, but would shine a light on plastic's life cycle. In particular, the registry will make the connection between fossil fuels and plastics clear to the public, said Mira Hurd, professor in the School of Environmental Studies at Queen's University. Quote, I think the fact that plastics are derived from fossil fuels is not something that we're used to really thinking about, Hurd said on CBC News Network. Canadians will finally get to see how we start with fossil fuels, the fossil fuels produce the plastics, and then how plastics are manufactured, and then finally how it translates into all the plastic waste that we as consumers, as Canadians, deal with. The requirements will be introduced in phases starting in 2025 and continuing through 2027, with exemptions for small producers that place less than 1 ton. I'm guessing that verb was supposed to be that produce less than 1 ton in that rather than place, because that doesn't make sense in that sentence. Khan said she's hopeful the registry model will be adopted by other countries at this week's meeting. Krista Seaman, Vice President of Chemistry Industry Association of Canada's Plastics Division, which represents plastic companies, welcomed the announcement and will be looking for more specific guidelines going forward. Quote, we really do support the collection of information and data, Seaman said in an interview. Quote, it will help not only identify where there is going to be a need to facilitate a broader understanding of what potential sources of plastic pollution are, and it will help us create the policies needed to close those gaps. So that's based on an article by Benjamin Shingler on CBC Lite called Ottawa Wants to Find How Plastic Producers Are Making and How Much Plastic Producers Are Making and Where It Ends Up. Now, the UN conference on plastics, this is, as we mentioned, it is the fourth round of the talks. The third round, I believe, had taken place in Kenya, and it kind of stalled there. So they're hoping to get things kick-started a little bit. According to Reuters, they're hoping for a treaty that could be signed by the end of this year, and it would be the most significant deal related to climate warming, emissions, and environmental protection since the 2015 Paris Agreement, which got 195 parties agreed to keep global temperatures from rising beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius. And as the latest reports are showing, we haven't done very well at that. But negotiators have a tough task in Ottawa, with countries divided over how ambitious the treaty should be. Quote, it's a crucial moment of this process, says Andres Gomez-Carrion, chair of the negotiations. One of the biggest challenges is to define where the plastic life cycle starts and define what sustainable production and consumption is. We're having the talks because at the UN Environmental Assembly in 2022, the world's nations agreed to develop a legally binding agreement by the end of 2024 to address the world's plastic pollution crisis. So the treaty is meant to address plastics throughout their entire life cycle, from when they are produced to how they are used and disposed of. So that kind of, so you can see how it dovetails with Canada's plan for the registry. The problem with plastics seems to be is that, according to the people organizing this conference, is that it's polluting landscapes, waterways. Producing plastics involves releasing greenhouse gas emissions as well. The plastic industry now accounts for 5% of global carbon emissions, which could grow to 20% by 2050 if current trends continue, said a report from the U.S. Federal Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory. Plastic production is on track to triple by 2060 unless the treaty sets production limits, as some have proposed. Most virgin plastic is derived from petroleum, as we know. The week's talks in Ottawa are set to be the biggest ones yet, with 3,500 people registered to attend, including lobbyists, business leaders, lawmakers, scientists, environmental not-for-profits. But the countries have become divided on issues During the previous rounds of talks, that were held. So the three first rounds were held in Punta del Este, Uruguay, Paris, and most recently Nairobi, Kenya, as we mentioned. At the Nairobi talks in November, the draft treaty under review ballooned from 30 pages to 70 as some countries insisted on including their objections to more ambitious measures like production limits and phase-outs. Countries are now under pressure to find common ground before the final negotiations are held in December in Busan, South Korea. So it seems that the countries at the last round were like, well, yeah, but, rather than yes, and. So I'm guessing that this is the conference where they're hoping to discuss yes, and rather than yes, but. Many plastics and petrochemical producing countries, including Saudi Arabia, Iran, and China, known collectively as the group of, quote, like-minded countries, have opposed mentioning production limits. They blocked other countries from formally working on proposed treaty language, calling for production caps, chemical disclosures on reduction schedules after last year's Nairobi session. Meanwhile, the 60-nation High Ambition Coalition, which includes EU countries, island nations, and Japan, wants to end plastic pollution by 2040. So those are your two factions here. The High Ambition Coalition, and then what is called like-minded countries. And I'm guessing that like-minded in this instance is not a compliment. Backed by some environment groups, this coalition has called for common legally binding provisions to, quote, restrain and reduce the production and consumption of primary plastic polymers to sustainable levels. They're also proposing measures such as phasing out, quote, problematic single-use plastics and banning certain chemical additives that could carry health risks. And it's the single-use plastics on which the federal government got its fingers wrapped a little bit by the Supreme Court by saying, you have to be specific. The U.S. also says that it wants to end plastic pollution by 2040, but unlike the High Ambition Coalition, it wants countries to set their own plans for doing so and to detail those plans and pledges sent regularly to the United Nations. That's pretty much what we're doing with GHGs right now. That's the model. The petrochemical industry, represented by a trade group called Global Partners for Plastic Circularity, that represents major petrochemical producers, including members of the American Chemistry Council and Plastics Europe. They argue that production caps would lead to higher prices for consumers and that the treaty should address plastics only after they are made, not during. These companies want to focus on encouraging the reuse or recycling of plastics, including deploying technology that can turn plastic into fuel, though a previous Reuters investigation found enormous obstacles in this method. In terms of transparency about chemicals used in production, the group says companies should be allowed to disclose those chemicals voluntarily, of course, because that's always worked. More than 200 consumer-facing companies, including Unilever, PepsiCo, and Walmart, have also joined the so-called Business Coalition for a Plastics Treaty. Like the petrochemical industry, these companies that rely on plastic packaging for their products have been a major presence in the plastic negotiations, but they support a treaty that includes production caps, use, quote, restrictions and phase-outs, reuse policies, production design requirements, and extended producer responsibility and waste management, according to a statement ahead of the Ottawa talks. So there you go. That's where things stand, both on the national regulation and on the talks. The second bit about the talks was an article by Valerie Volkovici from Reuters titled Global Plastic Treaty Talks Are Happening. What do stakeholders want? So if you'd want to follow up on that. But this is something that will probably be getting a certain amount of press here in Canada. And I guessing that Danielle Smith is just waiting to say that whatever semblance of agreement on anything is going to be devastating to Alberta, and once again run to a mic and tell the Prime Minister how it is that he should, who it is he could or should and should not have in his cabinet. Of course, she would never tolerate the Prime Minister telling her who she should and not have in her cabinet. But she's going to stand up in front of a mic and do that and bring her traditional can't-do attitude to the fore and tell us why we can't do that and why trying to curb the world's plastics is inherently anti-Albertan. So cue that. It's about to start now. And on that subject, remember yesterday when we played you that quote from Danielle Smith? Right? Here's the thing, Danielle Smith. You keep on going to a mic and to a camera and saying that Alberta wants to be treated by Quebec. You always raise the example of Quebec.
Yes.
Well, let's be clear here. Unlike Alberta, when it comes to the housing money, the Premier of Quebec was all over the media begging the prime minister to show up for a meeting that had already been scheduled. It was a little bit of performance art.
Mm-hmm.
Begging the prime minister to show up with the federal government's share of the housing money. Because Legault was like sitting there going, hey, dudes, I got my 900 million. Let's fucking go. Let's do this. That's not Danielle Smith's attitude.
Of course it isn't.
So, unlike Quebec, you're not showing up to the table proactively with matching funds saying, let's do this. Unlike Quebec, you didn't start a provincial childcare program over 20 years ago and funded it yourself for 2 freaking decades to create the model that showed the nation how it should be done. And unlike Quebec, and BC for that matter, the other province that you keep on citing, you don't have a maiden province carbon pricing equivalent that makes it so that the federal backstop doesn't apply in your province, and you didn't have it before there was a federal backstop. So, gotta go out on a limb here, old Danielle, but maybe if you want to be treated like Quebec, you should perhaps start acting like Quebec.
Well, she won't because well.
Oh my word! Oh my word! Okay, for the kids who are listening at home, it's the Titanic. I'm the king of the world scene, except it's when Rose is in front, yet not Jack, and David is behind her, holding her waist.
Danielle Smith holding her waist. Yeah. Alberta government always hitting things head on.
Oh man!
I thought that was the perfect opportunity to put that up.
Jeez. And speaking of Danielle Smith, the other thing that she's done, because I'm going to start calling her Saboteur Smith or Sabotage Smith, because every time she shows up to Mike, she shows up to a Mike to say why it is that we can't do that, to blow plans up. But she's actually doing it in province as well. It seems that the city of Calgary has spent a lot of money and a lot of time on a branding exercise to market the city internationally. And it seems that the city council announced it, and no sooner was it announced, Danielle Smith, the premier of the province in which the city is, the premier that should be wanting the province to have some type of branding strategy to attract more money to the province, decided to poo-poo all over it. Cities are the creations of the province. All the money, because, people think branding, oh, I'll just sit in a room, come up with a new idea and go with it. They pay people a lot of money to do that kind of stuff. A lot of money. So there were probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe even over $1 million. Picking a new brand, focus testing it, creating the whole launch video and the whole launch package and whatnot. So city council put all that work, all those human resources, all that financial capital, came up with a brand, came up with a whole launch, said, this is what we've been working on for the last year and a half, or however long they were. There we go. And then Danielle Smith, the premier of the province, says, yeah, that sucks. Way to go, Danny. You just took all the money city council put on that and torched it on day one. They created a new brand. They're going out to the world. And Danielle Smith says, basically, don't come invest here. She's literally working against the city of Calgary because she happens to not like the fact that the mayor's brown.
Mayor of Edmonton is,
Mayor of Edmonton's brown too. She doesn't like him either.
Yeah. Well, she doesn't give a shit. If you don't look like her, if you're not a pastor or a right-wing religious zealot.
But what kind of dick move is that, right? You're working for your boss.
Mm-hmm.
You say, hey, you know what? We need to bring in more money. Let's revamp our brand so that we can go out and sell ourselves. And you do all this work, and then you say, hey, boss, We got this brand thing. This, we'd like you to see it. All right. You have all the people there. You've had your little cocktail party. Everybody from all the industry is there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, let's launch it. And she goes, wow, this is crap. What kind of person? Like, total dick move.
Are you surprised
It's a
at all,
dick
though?
move.
But I mean, are you surprised at this?
No, I'm not surprised. I mean, it totally tracks with their personality.
Yeah.
It totally tracks with their petulance. But it's like, you just destroyed an investment that your company,
Mm-hmm.
like, who does that?
She does, obviously.
Ugh. I can't. Everything about her, the smug thing, the look thing, the way she talks past people, the way she, when she knows she's doing something wrong, she's being called on it, then she pretends it wasn't said, and then she just moves on. Like,
she's a master manipulator, period.
It all makes my skin crawl.
Understandable.
She is insidious. She's serpentine.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. People, she's literally there only to sabotage. I mean, I'm seeing her right now again, just blowing up to the mic, talking about how Albertans need cheap electricity rates right now, completely blowing past the fact that the rates are high because of her.
Well, and the thing is that people don't realize that they're being manipulated by her. There are people in Alberta who don't recognize that this is happening in real time, which is truly sad because, it's harming people. She doesn't care.
No, she's just right now. She's like standing up to a mic and goes, "Hey, hey, Alberta, watch me pretend to fix what it is I broke. Give me a cookie."
Yeah, pretty much. Just a horrible, despicable human being. That's all it is. She's a horrible, despicable human being.
I know, but it's just
You're exasperated.
She seems to relish being criticized. Right? That's the thing. There's a smarm to her. Like PP, she has a smarm, but it's a different kind of smarm than his. Right? Because he's always in pit bull mode, and so is she. But she's just better. She's just better at what again? I keep on calling. It's called nice nasty.
Mm-hmm.
She's trained. Nice nasty. PP is just nasty. He's just leaning into the dickishness. He's a dick. He knows everybody thinks he's a dick. He's leaning into it. It sells with a certain market.
Mm-hmm.
But she's nice nasty like this. Like, she presents herself like she wants to be liked. And it's just like the contradiction of both of them together. It's like when you're eating food, they say when food plays on two flavor centers, like, salty, sweet, sweet and spicy, that's the good thing, right? But it's like she keeps on trying to play on two centers in my brain at the same time, and it's just freaking grating. There's like my logic center, which she completely blows apart, and then there's my decency center, which she also blows apart.
Very much passive aggressive. Right?
Just stop doing that. She just, particularly her, just PP. I get it; it's a shtick, but and I know with her she's a shtick too. But for her, it just seems so much like PP. I imagine he peaked in high school, and he's just always been this way. But her, it's like, who do you want me to be today?
Yeah.
Set enough lobbying cash, and I'll do it. Just like, and that is, to me, that's even worse. Like, if you actually believe the crap That's one thing. But she believes in nothing.
She believes in power.
Nothing.
Power. That's it. Power. Nothing
She
more.
will just slide right over and say, "Hey, got some lobbying cash for me? What do you need me to be today?"
Well, I don't know if you've seen some of the commentary lately from our friend Charles Adler, who used to work with her. They were colleagues.
Yes.
And he eviscerates her almost daily. And he would know better than the rest of us. He's like, she's lying, she's duplicitous, she's manipulative. She has nobody's interest in mind but her own. Not a good person. Not a good person. The current crop of reformers that masquerade under the name of conservative do not have your best interest in mind. And the amount of people that seem to think they do is disturbing to me. Again, I think the silent majority isn't speaking up because we're quiet. But 2024, I've seen, like I said, back in January, and I'm going to continue to say it, this is the year of the pushback. And I see it. People are fed up. The most milquetoast, reserved, quiet centrist you've ever met is now getting their hackles up and raising hell because they're fed up with the bullshit we've been fed for the last number of years. They're tired of it. And I know people who do not like the Liberal Party, do not like Justin Trudeau, and are voting Liberal in the next election because they are so disgusted by the behavior of the Conservatives. Every day in the House of Commons, it's lie after lie after lie after lie, heckle after heckle. It's like, act like a goddamn adult. If you pulled that shit in a meeting, at work, get out of here. You're fired. You're muted, sir. Oh, there you are.
Sorry.
It's just
Yeah,
it's exasperating.
Yeah. The muting keeps on turning itself on its own for some reason. It's really weird.
No idea.
Other news, also sort of Earth Day related, but on the economic side, there was talk about this back in January, if I am not mistaken. Yeah, January 8th, early. And at the time, people were saying, oh, well, yeah, this is really nice, but it's probably not going to happen. Because this is such a big company, it would be such a big investment, and there are so many other nations. Well, yesterday, the announcement hasn't been officially made. Apparently, that's coming Thursday, but it seems to have gotten through in the media that Honda Canada is expected to announce plans to build electric vehicles in Canada. Now, this is apparently a very, very, very big deal. Last January, they were talking about it, and well, let's put it this way. We have deals with Northvolt at the moment. We have deals with Stellantis at the moment, and we have deals with Volkswagen. And the Volkswagen, not sure if it was the Volkswagen or the Stellantis one, but one of them got hit a speed bump for a while. It was announced first, and then there were other things that were announced, and then they received higher subsidies. And then the first one said, hey, we want those same subsidies, and we're going to stop building the plant until we get them. They resolved that. The plant was still being built. So we have three major companies, and the federal government, François-Philippe Champagne, our industry minister, and the prime minister made it very clear that they were pursuing more of them. They wanted Canada to be this big hub, which is, and part to go with that was the 10% electric vehicle supply chain tax credit that they announced in the budget last week was going to cost about $80 million over the next 5 years. But that was part of that as well. So they were talking about this bringing in a plant. And when we finally dealt with Stellantis, Volkswagen was the one that we had hit the speed bump. It ended up being $7 billion in Canadian commitments.
Mm-hmm.
Now, nobody is saying how many billion yet in Canadian commitments have been put towards this one. But it seems that the size of this is probably double the size of the Volkswagen deal, which at the time was the largest deal of that kind. So back in January, they were estimating the investment that Honda Global would be making in Canada if they came here to do that would be $18.4 billion.
That's a lot of money.
For scale, to give you an idea, the whole capital gains measure that the federal government announced was expected to bring in $19.3 billion over 5 years, so about $3 billion a year, and then rising a little bit. This is an $18.4 billion investment. So again, when they're saying, as the conservatives and whatnot, and the whole press is screaming that, hey, we raised the capital gains inclusion by from 50 to 66%, and it's going to send investment running away. And then Honda comes around and says, yeah, we've got $18.4 billion for you. Conservatives, sit down. The grown-ups are having a chat right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So the report back in the day said that Honda was expected to make a final decision on the project by the end of the year, and the new facility could begin production as early as 2028. At the time, a spokesperson from Honda said, currently we are focused on the EV hub we are establishing in Ohio, where we will begin production of EVs and EV batteries in North America in late 2025. President of the Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association of Canada, Flavio Volpe, at the time said that Canada's decision to end sales of new passenger vehicles powered only by gasoline or diesel by 2035 has prompted automakers around the world to start talking with provincial and federal governments about how they can make that a reality. So he's not surprised. He wasn't surprised at the time that there were high-level discussions between Ottawa and Honda. I said Hyundai. There is no certainty in any of this, but I'm particularly excited about the idea that Honda would double down on what they have here. So yesterday it seemed, anyway, it was all over the news. And what was really funny, because as you all know, if you've been paying attention to the show Kits and Cubs, this is right up my Beaver sweetie's alley, right? Electric vehicles. He was in a meeting yesterday, actually, for his research and some stuff having to do with his patent. And apparently they let him know during the meeting. By then, there's that thing with Honda, and it's like, oh, really? So lots of things going on that front, big and small in the nation. But with regard to Honda, they say that they are set to build the battery plant near its auto manufacturing facility in Alliston, Ontario, where it also plans to produce fully electric vehicles. So we're talking this deal here is not only about producing the batteries, dealing with the batteries itself in terms of probably trying to find a way to deal with them at their end of their life cycle in some way, which is where my Beaver Sweetie's research is, but the production of the cars itself as well. So it's going to be like full production, right?
Mm-hmm.
From batteries to the cars all in one shot, because a lot of these announcements up until now have just been for the batteries. But this is both. This is why this is particularly big. Senior sources with information on the project confirm that the federal and Ontario governments will make the announcement this week, but we're not able to give dollar figures, as I mentioned. However, comments on Monday from Ontario Premier Doug Ford and Economic Development Minister Vic Fedeli suggest it's a project worth about $14 to $15 billion. Ford told the First Nations Conference that there will be an announcement this week about a new deal. He says that will be double the size of a Volkswagen deal announced last year. That's where that plant will be built in St. Thomas, Ontario. Fedeli would not confirm if Ford was referencing Honda, but spoke coyly after the question period Monday about the amount of electrical vehicle investment in the province. Quote, we went from 0 to $28 billion in 3 years, and if the Premier, if his comments are correct, then next week we'll be announcing $43 billion in and around there, he said. So, again, when you have people talking about the current federal government, because this is the provincial government here taking all the credit for having done this. But again, when you're looking at the federal government, we had that article that we published that said that this prime minister was transforming the economy.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've got the $2.4 billion for AI that was announced. We've got 3 other battery plants. We're getting this 4th battery plant with EV production. And Moderna is picked Canada as the first nation anywhere around the world to have another production manufacturing plant for mRNA vaccines. I don't know about you, but it seems very obvious to me that this particular prime minister is trying to set us up with footholds in industries of the future
Certainly looks like it.
and high value, knowledge
think so.
economy, green engineering, green manufacturing,
Taking us in the right direction.
vaccines, therapeutics. This is where we need to go.
Oh, steer the ship in the direction of which you need to go.
He's literally skating where the puck is going. And remember also, this, the free trade deal with Europe, finalized under this government. The CPTPP, finalized with this government. The surprise renegotiation of NAFTA, under this government. Free trade with Ukraine, under this government. Free trade deal with the UK, although not finalized because the UK has decided to pull away because it wasn't getting everything it wanted just right now. Also, for people who are saying that this, if this prime minister is trying to sink our economy, he's doing a terrible job of it. If we're to hear the Conservatives tell the tale here, he seems to be positioning us quite well. The Honda facility will be the third electric vehicle battery plant in Ontario, following the footsteps of Volkswagen Stellantis, as we mentioned ourselves when we are introducing this. While those two deals involved billions of dollars in production subsidies as a way of competing with the United States Inflation Reduction Act subsidies, Honda is expected to involve capital commitments and tax credits. It's going to be a slightly different financing deal here. Federal Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland's recent budget announced a 10% electrical vehicle supply chain tax investment credit, which we mentioned to you as well early on in the subject. And that tax credit will be applied to the cost of buildings related to EV production, as long as the business invests in assembly battery production and cathode active material production in Canada, which this deal is going to do. That's on top of an existing 30% clean technology manufacturing investment tax credit on the cost of investments in new machinery and equipment. Honda's deal also involves two key parts suppliers for their batteries, cathodes, and separators, with the locations of those facilities elsewhere in Ontario set to be announced at a later date. So not only are we getting the Honda, but we're getting key parts suppliers as well. There. So basically three businesses. Yes. The deal comes after years of meetings and discussions between Honda's and the executives of the Ontario government. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Premier Doug Ford and Honda executives were on hand in March 2022 in Alliston when the Japanese automaker announced hybrid production at the facility with a $131.6 million in assistance from each of the two levels of government. Around the time of that announcement, conversations began about a larger potential investment into EVs. Fideli traveled to Japan that fall, the first of 3 visits to meet with Honda Motor executives about the project. Senior officials from the company in Japan also traveled to Toronto 3 times to meet with government officials, including twice with Ford. So I'm going to, by reading this, that even though the provincial government is taking a lot of credit, it seems that a lot of the credit is actually due there as well. So it's not... Provincial government shouldn't take all the credit, but it seems that it deserves a very healthy part of the credit in this case.
Which is fine. That's
fine. Which is fine. So you got to give credit where it's due.
Hell yeah.
Just do.
I fully believe in that. Always have.
Yeah.
Always have.
Absolutely.
Even when the person you don't like did a good thing, it's like, well, they did a good thing, so they did a good thing. Let's give them credit for it, right?
Exactly. During the trip in March of the Honda executives to Toronto, March 2023, officials, including Fideli, pitched the province as a prime destination for their investment, part of a strong push by the government to make Ford's vision of an end-to-end electric vehicle supply chain in province a reality. Negotiations took a major step forward that July when Ontario sent a formal letter to Honda Canada signaling its willingness to offer incentives for a battery plant and EV production. And then they met with Ford in November and December. And that's the meeting that sealed the deal, according to sources. Then Honda approached the federal government a few months ago, and a senior government official said that Freeland led her government's negotiations with the company from that point on. And it seems that it's going to be successful, given that they are telegraphing there will be a major announcement in a few days.
Awesome.
So lots of very, very good news with regard to the environment and showing as well that doing well for the environment can also be doing well for the economy. So all in all, a pretty exciting Earth Day in Canada. If we're talking about a plastics registry, if we are one of the world's leaders in trying to bring together an international plastics treaty that would be signed by the end of this year, and we are becoming not only a EV battery manufacturing destination, but now an EV vehicle building destination as well. All in all, not a bad day's work.
I'd say that's very successful.
I would say so too. Yeah, Kit Ellen, at least the feds didn't need to bail out Honda in 2008. Yeah, but then again, were they here to bail out in 2000?
Well, they didn't bail out Ford either.
That's true.
It was GM and Chrysler, and Ford said, look, we're okay. We're not asking for money. We are here to say it's possible we may need some, but right now we're okay.
Yeah.
So Ford never borrowed.
Yeah.
Ford never borrowed, and neither did any of the, I'd say
the Japanese automakers or the Asian and European automakers too.
Asian and European automakers, but most of that stuff is made here now. Like Honda's made here, BMW is made in North America.
Yeah.
It's not, they're not imports per se, because they have plants that build them here.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know about Hyundai or any of a number of the other Southeast Asian companies, but yeah, Honda certainly built here. They've had a plant in Alliston since the 80s, early 90s, something like that.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, it's been here for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you buy a Honda in Canada, it's made in Canada.
Okay. That I didn't know.
You are putting your money into Canadian manufacturing and employment, even though it is, a foreign company. Speaking of foreign companies, did you see this? This is from the blog TO from Greg McEachran at GMAC of Glebe. Blog TO, thanks to a push by Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry, Francois-Philippe Champagne, Canada is getting closer to having a foreign grocer enter the market, bringing some desperately needed competition.
Oh?
Yeah, Ontario, it says, is one step closer to getting a new grocery chain to compete with Loblaws. Now, we do have a Whole Foods here in Ottawa. One. And Whole Foods isn't exactly what you call competitive to any of the big chains because...
No, it's pretty high end.
Well, not only that, well, they're not ridiculously expensive. It is high end, but the thing is, their closest competitor could theoretically be Farm Boy because a lot of Whole Foods products are in-store brands. They don't necessarily sell for others. They sell mostly their in-store stuff. And Farm Boy is largely like that too. Farm Boy does sell but they have a lot of what Farm Boy sells is their own product. And Whole Foods is much the same way. So it looks like Aldi, a discount store with 12,000 locations that's popular in Europe, the US, and Australia, and Lidl. I'm familiar with Lidl. I've shopped at Lidl, not Aldi. So I wonder if they're any relation. Chain with similarly large footprint is big on quality, Lidl on price. Like low on price.
Yeah.
And yeah, they are. I've bought stuff at Lidl before, and I don't know if it's called Lidl. That's how I pronounce Lidl. If I'm mispronouncing that, I apologize. But I have shopped there in Switzerland and in Ireland as well. And yeah, it's think GT boutique prices, but groceries. Like all they sell is groceries.
Okay.
And beer and wine, of course, because it's Europe. But yeah.
Oh, well, interesting. Well,
and discount beer and wine too.
That would be a big, would be another big deal because and Francois-Philippe Champagne is the one that's behind this too, federally. The EV stuff, So he's the guy that they keep on saying, yeah, you're going to bring EV manufacturing to Canada and battery. Yeah, why would they come to Canada? So I was like, ooh, damn, he did it. Yeah, right. Like you're going to get another person to come to Canada and do groceries. And they're like, ooh, he's doing it.
Yeah. Well, Aldi, like this, according to Michael Pilon, Aldi is similar to Food Basics, but Food Basics is owned by Loblaw. Like most of the grocery chains in this country are owned by like 3 companies, I think. It's an oligopoly, has been for decades. And it's only getting bigger because now they own the drugstore too. So, If we get Lidl here or Aldi, I'd be really happy because it would give us actual choice.
According to Mr. Jim and Kit PNC bio, it might be Little rather than Lidl.
Little would make sense. Yes, Little.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's probably Mr. Jim says, I don't know what the slogan is, but he says probably Little based on the slogan.
Yeah, big on quality, little on price. Yes, Little would make sense.
Yeah.
That would
There
make
you
more
go.
sense. Thank you. See,
Thank
that
you so
didn't
much.
occur to me.
See, the kids know. The kids know. How much time do we have, Mr. Grizzly?
Oh, about 10 minutes.
Okay. Just a quick little tip here. Something that's making the news. There was a pro-Palestinian rally on the Hill
Yes.
over the course of the weekend. And it seems that there was a video captured of the event where there was somebody speaking. And the person that was speaking was basically saying something like, "Long live October 7th." October 7th, of course, was the day that I don't even know what you would call them. Uh, a bunch of terrorists, for lack of the better word, from Hamas came across the border, and in the largest one-day extermination of Jewish people since the Holocaust, killed 1,200 people and took 250 hostage. We have now, I think it is, crossed about 200 days now of retaliation. It seems that people are wondering whether or not that which happened on the Hill itself is hate speech. Some people might, or they're asking people to look into that. I don't know if it's been confirmed if it is. According to Richard Moon, who's a law professor at the University of Windsor, he says it's odious speech, and I hope that anybody associated with this rally would distance themselves from it. But when it comes to meeting the standards of hate speech, I think it probably doesn't. There's not a lot of case law, but hate speech usually is stuff that's of the category, of comparing people to animals or to bacteria or vermin. Usually preaches active extermination of them, or saying that they do things like, for example, they're all pedophiles or molest children or things of the sort. But strictly glorifying a mass tragic event may not qualify as hate speech. It might qualify as something else, but might not be enough. And this is not just a Canadian phenomenon. It's happening a lot in the United States too, particularly on college campuses at the moment. So both of our nations are having the same issue in different capacities. But there have been protests on campus and at New York State University, universities, and at Yale that have result in arrests. And there have been encampments at Columbia University, MIT, and the University of Michigan.
Yeah, and they've been going on for a while now.
They've been going on, for a while. Once again, Kits and Kubs, from our position, a lot of history, a lot of entanglements. None of us are steeped enough in it to know. But this seems to be an endless cycle of violence. One hand, and we're just seem to be laying the seeds for the next one. Once again, we maintain that the Netanyahu government is not Israelis. Hamas leadership are not Palestinians.
Exactly.
And having protests in Canada where we hold either Jewish Canadian citizens or Arab/Palestinian Canadian citizens responsible for what leadership in other nations do is probably not a good idea.
I'd say it's definitely not a good idea.
Preaching hate.
We're against that.
saying and doing things here in Canada that would make people on the other side, on the opposite side of you, feel unsafe. Probably not something we should be doing here. Right? The Jewish lady that lives 3 floors up from you in the apartment building, not responsible for what's going on over there and has no power to stop it.
Exactly. Same thing goes for the I'll say Palestinian for want of a better descriptor.
Yeah.
They have nothing to do with what's going on over there. So don't be hassling people here for what's happening over there.
At the very least, we should be able to agree.
Most of us are just trying to get through the damn day, right? Most of us just want to get through the day. Get through the work day, get home, enjoy a little bit of leisure time before you have more work to do. So don't be doing those things anymore. That's all.
Jewish Canadians, regardless of what's going on over there, have the absolute and undeniable right to feel safe in this country.
Yep.
Arab Canadians, regardless of what's going on over there, have the absolute and undeniable right to feel safe in this country. Any form of protest that appears to hold either Jewish Canadians or Arab Canadians responsible for that which is being done by the Netanyahu government or Hamas should be condemned. Just should be.
It's as simple as that.
Whatever it is that's going on in other nations on the planet, it's up to us, always incumbent upon us here as Canadians, to do right by each other here in Canada first. That should be non-negotiable. That's part of the social contract of being Canadian. We welcome each other, even if we have different views. There are very few people here in this country presently, right now, who have the power to stop or who are directly responsible for what's going on down there. So just protest, make your voice heard peacefully, and don't try to make your fellow citizen feel unsafe while you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? One Canada. One Canada. Right. Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
Yes, we do. I have a something to end things on a positive note.
Okie dokie.
So it's no secret I'm a Sens fan. A proud, happy Sens fan. We haven't made the playoffs in 7 years. Like I'm a member of the damn team. I'm not. The Sens haven't made the playoffs in 7 years. So I am not a Leafs booster in any way, shape, or form. My 2 favorite teams are the Ottawa Senators and whoever is playing against the Leafs.
Yep.
That being said,
last night.
Well, the Leafs won tonight, but that's not where I'm going. That's not where I'm going with this. Where I'm going with this is
win too,
I love the unbridled enthusiasm of Curtis from Alberta. Watch this video because, I mean, this is commitment. Yep. This is commitment.
Yes, sir! Not tonight, Satan! Yeah!
A couple things you get off the board here. It's been 8 games since.
Another bear! Sammy! Yes, sir! Let's go!
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
Big Poppy game winner, bud! Yes, sir! We go to Toronto Tide, baby! Cheers, Leaf Nation! To the Buds! Go! Leafs! Go! Yes, sir!
Slams a beer. I mean, this man is committed.
Dad, you need to up your game, man.
Yeah.
Woo!
The Leafs.
I love that.
I think they brought him to a playoff game last year, but it's like this guy. He's in Alberta. Curtis from Alberta. Dean interviewed him about a year or so ago, and it's like, I love this guy. Leafs Guy 403 on the Twitter. An absolute sweetheart of a human being. And he was being interviewed, and Dean's like, so you've invested a lot of money into this. Like, he's got the locker room. He's got the whole thing. He's got a beer dispenser. I mean, the guy's got all the Leafs garb and gear. Here's the best part. You know what he does for a living?
What?
He's an accountant.
No way.
He's an accountant. So it's
Dude, you're ruining accountants' reputations all around the world right there.
Not at all. My sister, who lives in the suburbs, who has 5 kids in a big house in the suburbs, she listens to hardcore gangster rap. She's an accountant. So don't
Never
judge the book
underestimate the
by its
quiet
cover.
ones.
Right?
Never underestimate the quiet ones, people.
Exactly. Yeah. So Curtis from Alberta, I love his enthusiasm. I do. If the Leafs win the series and move on to round 2, I'm happy for Curtis. I don't give a shit about the Leafs, but I'm happy for Curtis because this is a guy in Alberta who loves that team. It's like, that's commitment, man. Born and raised small town Albertan schmuck, smashing beers and spreading cheers for the Leafs.
Oh my God, that's absolutely fantastic. Okay, I'm giving him a follow right away.
Oh yeah, he's worth it.
Leaf Guy 403, not Leafs. Leaf Guy.
Yeah, Leaf Guy 403.
Oh
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
So if you are a Canadian, last night was a good night for you.
Yeah.
Both
Toronto
Maple
and
won,
and Toronto won.
and then Edmonton won, and
Edmonton crushed.
Edmonton. Oh my God, what a match!
McDavid
11
is a
goals
killer.
scored.
Yeah.
11 goals scored. Not only McDavid, Zach. Oh God, what's his last name? He scored a hat trick.
Yeah. I'm blanking right now.
Handy Nandy. Darn.
I want to say Parise, but it's not Parise.
No, it's something that ends in dy. But yeah, just a great match. Both matches were a lot of fun. But yeah, right now, every Canadian team has won a match, and every Canadian team is leading or tied in the series.
Yeah, four
Enjoy
of the
it, Canada.
4 of the 6 Canadian teams, for 7. There's 7. What am I saying? So, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa. 7 teams. 4 of them are in the playoffs and have each have won a game. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. Zach Hyman. Thanks.
Zach Hyman is the name I was looking for. Yeah, I think 3 goals and an assist. I think it's like 4 points or something. That whole Hyman, Draisaitl, Bouchard, McDavid, just holy crap! It's like they can score at will. It's really something. And the Winnipeg goals, there was like 2 of them that was like coming in across the blue line and just shot like from right there and just like went right through. It's just beautiful goals. Just beautiful goals. It was great. It's like, and I never noticed this as a kid, but when they're like winding up to see the shot like this, you can actually see the stick bend from the sheer velocity.
Oh yeah.
Like that thing that we used to do with the pencil, that the pencil looked like it was like, well, like you see the stick do that now.
Yeah.
So I don't know how hard they're shooting, but holy crap.
That's coming in fast.
But the hockey, it's exciting this year.
I have something else to share, which is slightly different because it just came across me. Remember when Doug Ford said you'd never use your credit card for healthcare?
That's a lie.
Select an MRI scan below. This is from Simply MRI, 2888 Bathurst Street, North York, Ontario. Whole body MRI, 1 hour and 30 minutes, $2,500. Whole body MRI light, 1 hour, $1,900. Torso MRI, 1 hour, $1,500. Prostate MRI, 30 minutes, $990. WB MRI and multi-cancer blood test, 1 hour and 30 minutes, $4,000. Whole body MRI couples, 3 hours, $3,500. Whole body MRI family plan, 5 hours, $6,000. Have a question? Yeah, I do. What in the Christ is going on?
Yeah, WTF. And when you mentioned that, we won't go into it there, but Shoppers Drug Mart is also facing a proposed class action lawsuit for alleged unethical corporate practices. Like this, and it's being filed by a franchise owner.
Yes, because they were, and I was telling Bridget about this the other day. I said they were calling people to do med checks to see if they needed more medicine, and then they could literally turn around and bill OHIP for it. And
Yeah.
franchisees are like, this is unethical. We don't do this. And they were being forced by corporate head office. So, class action lawsuit launched by a franchisee. Interesting, eh?
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Well, and this is obviously a franchisee who has a conscience.
Right?
It's not just concerned with earning money, but it's like, no, this is wrong. Period.
Yep.
It's wrong.
There we go. Canadians who make us proud. Not
Yeah.
always our athletes or our artists.
Nope.
All right. Kids and Cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring. So please, because word of mouth is priceless, tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do. And if you would like to make sure that you do not miss an episode, well, you don't have to, thanks to the fun, fabulous, and feisty The Ray Girl, who sponsored our pod page. So if you scan that QR code that's under my chin, that will bring you to our pod page site. And if you are listening, you go to podpage.com/The True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. And if you click subscribe there, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, we will be coming directly into your inbox or into your podcast feed, and you will be able to listen to us. And if you would like to support us in other ways, make like Kit Helene, who once again is right on time, saying have a beyond awesome day, everyone. And remember to smash the button before you leave. If you go to our True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, you can do that. You can smash with our like button, you can smash with our subscribe button, and you can smash with our share button. Smash with 1, smash with 2, smash with 3. No matter how many you smash with, it makes us happy. So please do that. We appreciate it very much. And if you would like to support us in yet another way, as we are getting close to the end of the month, and if you would like to help us to make rent here at the Beaver Lodge, or pay for our internet subscription so that we can keep on broadcasting to you, well then, you need to scan that QR code by Mr. Grizzly's head, and that will bring you to our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. And there you will find the Emergency Hydration Fund, or our tip jar, where you can leave us a little something. Kid Vim, breaking news, Trump is still farting. You heard it here first, kids. You heard it here first. So coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. If you make a little donation there, we really appreciate it. Everything gets invested back into the show. And remember, if you can't donate, that's quite all right. The gift of your attention, when you retweet us, when you participate in the chat, when you send us things that you spot in the news that you think we should see, all of that helps us very, very much. And we appreciate everything that you do. Thank you very much for your support, because democracy is something that you do. If you want to vote in the Alberta NDP leadership race, well, you missed the deadline. That was yesterday. So, but if you do have a favorite candidate, do make sure that you sign up to volunteer and to fight for the representative that you want there to be on the ballot. If you want better choices, you got to make sure that better choices actually do get on the ballot. So that's the part of democracy, something that you do today. All right, kids and cubs, Mr. Grizzly, if you have some words of wisdom, please lay them on us.
Take your vitamins. Sorry, I'm going through the scan, and it's like there's so much stuff I'm being bombarded with right now. It's hard to concentrate in my ADHD squirrel brain. I did do an ASMR last night, so you can always scan that code above my head right now, which would take you to my ASMR channel.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it went quite well. I was discussing where my mental health was last night. It's it's sometimes funny in the evening. I will start to, I'll say sundown. I don't know what else to call it. But I was lying on the couch just feeling doom and gloom and misery and sadness and emptiness. And I thought, okay, let's do the show. And I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. I got up and I did it. And sure thing, never fails, I felt better afterwards because I talked it out. Now, I have some interaction with the folks in the chat online, but I was able to get out what I needed to say, and it helps me. So if I can help myself by discussing how I'm feeling, it might be helpful to somebody else. So if you are feeling blue, if you are feeling sad, if you have depression or anxiety or ADHD or OCD or any of the following, or any of the above, I should say, scan that code right there you see next to my dome, and it'll take you to my ASMR YouTube page, which is Paulie's World 2005, I think. I can't remember my own web page, my own YouTube page. How bad is that? I just, hang on. I'll tell you what it is here. I'll just open it up in a new tab. And it's youtube.com/@Paulie's World 2005. And that's, I've had that page for a long time, but it's only in the last few years that I've really started to help grow and develop the channel, because it was never meant to be what it currently is. It just started out that way and went that way, and here we go. So like I said, if you want to scan that QR code, that'll take you to the channel. I've put the link in the chat for those of you who are interested. And if you are having a mental health issue, there's about 200 videos of me talking about mental health and things you can do to help alleviate pain and suffering when you are in a pain and suffering moment.
Miss Shadika wrote early on in the show. Sorry, pardon me. Sorry. Mateo usually listens to positive affirmations at night to go to bed. Last night I realized your ASMR was on and told him we would listen to you instead. He fell asleep within minutes.
Oh, good. Good.
So there you go.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right,
You
I got to
did some
get out
good
of
work,
here.
sir. All right. Miss Grizzly, please, cue the cock. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.